Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Untreed Reads. I wish we could call it Untreed Reads Live, but this time around we're actually recording here in the lovely studios of Untreed Reads Las Vegas. Why? Because we're bringing you a very special edition of Untreed Reads with, of course, my buddy Gizmo. In the chat, as always, is our chat hostess, Sandra Murphy. I believe CEO Katie Sullivan will be stopping by in the chat if she's not there already. We're doing this as a special YouTube premiere, so all of us are in the chat right now, joining you to answer questions, tell you a little bit about what's going on in our lives, and just sort of enjoy this whole experience with you. We did tape this previously. It was just a heck of a lot easier to do that than to go live, but hey, it doesn't mean we love you any less. We're just really glad that you all are here. Plus, as you can tell, Gizmo, our marketing director and company spokespig, well, you know, he tends to be a little temperamental when being on camera. But you know, it's easier to film around him. So we're going to enjoy his company here for a bit. But yeah, as I said, this is kind of a special version of the show. Normally you guys just get me and you just get Gizmo. Last couple times you haven't even had Gizmo. But I'm really excited because coming up in the show today, my sister, Lisa Wagner, is going to be joining us from her home in Georgia. If you aren't familiar with Lisa, you probably should be by now. She is the esteemed cookbook author and recipe creator for our series, The Killer Wore Cranberry. She's been featured in 4 of our volumes. We actually were surprised. We both had thought it was 3. And then we were going through the books and went, wow, she's actually been in 4 of those. And definitely had to give her a shout out this year on the front cover. We've loved having her so far contribute to the volume. So if you look at the cover of the 6th installment, 6 Scandalous Servings, you'll see there's a little sign on the front gate there that says with recipes, and that's a little shout out to my sis. Much like many of you out there this year, Thanksgiving's looking a little different for everybody. We're not exactly all getting together with giant groups. My sister and I are, of course, separated by almost an entire country, so getting together with her on this YouTube video is pretty awesome. It's a chance for her and I to get together and celebrate Thanksgiving together in our little way, in a way that's really awesome for you. So she's going to be coming up shortly with a couple of the recipes from the Killer Wore Cranberry series. Incidentally, we have created an entire section on our store full of all of our Thanksgiving stories. You'll find all the volumes of the Killer Wore Cranberry there. There's also some great short stories going back to the very beginning of Untreed Reads from our first year. There were a couple of stories that appeared separately from the Killer Wore Cranberry's debut, and they cover a little bit everything. My thing has always been all about dysfunctional families at Thanksgiving because, hey, who doesn't have one? It's the one thing we kind of all have in common. It's like we all want to get together for the holidays, and yet at the same time, we can't wait for everybody to just finish eating and go. And you'll find most of our stories run that way. We are offering a special discount code for everybody out there. If you do want to pick up any of our Thanksgiving-themed stories, you'll find them on the left side there of store.untreedreads.com. Pick out any books you like, add them to your cart, and enter coupon code TURKEY at checkout. You'll get an additional 25% off the title. That includes an additional 25% off all books that are already on sale. So that includes the entire Killer Wore Cranberry print series, whether that's paperback or hardcover, which are already 15% off. We're going to go ahead and give you a grand total of another 25% off of that because, hey, we're giving like that. And it is Thanksgiving, and what better way to thank our readers than giving you guys all a little bit of an extra discount there. We know times are tough, but we've got great material out there from our authors that we're always happy to spotlight. And we hope you take a moment and check them out. You know, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, these have always been my favorite holidays. It's my favorite time of year. Lisa and I grew up in upstate New York, where every holiday kind of had its own smell. It's kind of hard to explain to people that haven't lived in areas where the weather turns brisk and there's a sharpness that comes to the air. And Thanksgiving smells, you know, Halloween smells different than Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving smells different than, say, Christmas. New Year's has a smell all on its own. Here in Vegas, where my air conditioning is still kicking in every day, I can't get the house below 78. Go figure. Um, I don't quite get to enjoy the holiday the same way. Thanksgiving does feel a little different in that it's just not as cold as I would like it to be. It's missing a little bit of that briskness. But it's still that really great time of year where you think about the things you're grateful for. You start looking at the past year and you say, what things am I thankful for that have happened? I mean, there's no denying it's been a dumpster fire of a year. If it could go wrong this year, it did. I read a meme somewhere that said, what if all these things that are going wrong is because a time traveler keeps trying to fix something and everything keeps getting worse the more he tries to fix it. I'll buy into that. I think that's a good theory. And hey, if any of you want to write that story and send it as a submission to Untreed Reads Publishing, might actually consider publishing that one. That would be a good one. But when we got started doing Killer War Cranberry 6, we said people kind of dealt with the pandemic enough, and having to deal with stories about a pandemic in an anthology just didn't seem like much fun. I mean, we love killing people in the Killer War Cranberry. That's exactly why we do it. We love knocking people off in new and inventive ways, and that's half the fun of the whole series and why we do it. There's nothing quite like getting a stack of submissions and going, "Ooh, I never thought of knocking off Uncle John that way. That's a really great idea." But we also didn't want it to be depressing because, hey, we've had a depressing enough year. So I'm very thankful that all of the authors in Killer War Cranberry 6 really came up with stories that were universal. Doesn't matter if it's during a pandemic, doesn't matter if it's just a normal Thanksgiving. The stories are really universal. They're all entertaining. They'll all take you out of whatever moment you're in right now that you might be troubled by. When I talked with Lisa about coming up with recipes for this particular collection, one of the things we talked about was using items that people kind of already have in their house, so that you wouldn't necessarily have to go out shopping, making extra trips if you're not comfortable with going out. So Lisa did a great job of delivering recipes with things that more than likely you already have in your home. And so you'll see that when we get to the two recipes she's preparing for you today. But by all means, check out Volume 6, Six Scandalous Servings. We did just get a really, really lovely review from Kevin Tipple. We really appreciate that. We're always very happy when we get good reviews of our books. And it's just a genuine pleasure to be able to put these out, and entertain people and find that people are really excited by them. Going back to what I'm thankful for, Untreed Reads has had a really good year. And we're in our 10th year. This is our 10-year anniversary all year. Not a lot of publishers are around that long. A lot of publishers kind of flame out after a few years, or they're going really well and then something terrible happens, or they get behind. The news right now in publishing is full of publishers that are behind in paying their authors, and knock on wood, that's not been us. Katie and I have been able to keep Untreed Reads going really well for 10 years now, and that's thanks to a lot of things. I mean, that's thanks to all of our readers out there who have really supported independent publishing, support our authors, supported some great titles. We're willing to take some risks with us when we try to do different things, who followed us as we've tried all new stuff. We're very, very thankful for that. To our authors who are patient and devoted and caring and genuinely concerned about not just their success, but our success. Being true family members rather than just authors at a publishing house. I care very, very deeply about my authors. If I could have a giant Zoom session for Thanksgiving where everybody joined me on camera and we all had dinner together for Thanksgiving, and then I could kind of have a virtual table with my hundreds of authors, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'm very, very thankful to all of them for wanting to go on this crazy journey with Katie and I, and continuing to support us. So many of them having been with us for 10 years or more. is just amazing. It's more than you can ask for as a publisher. It really is. Um, this year in particular, I mean, I hate to say it, but when people are locked down, they do a lot more reading, um, and this has allowed people to really discover our backlist. A lot of our titles that we're always trying to market our titles, whether it's new or old, but being able to have a lot of the new folks discovering our older titles has been really terrific. Um, and there's some resurgences. Titles have been with us for 10 years, like our Saturday Night Live book is going gangbusters. Um, Beyond the Blues, our book on postpartum depression, is still continuing to help thousands of women around the globe. Uh, Joan Wolfe, so glad we brought her in. Our Regency romance authors, Barbara Metzger, Edith Layton, Joan Wolfe, continue to just dominate bestseller charts. And everybody's just really enjoying their work. And Joan being able to give us a brand new work this year was great too. Our discovery of Josh Pachter and Josh, bringing us Beat a Black Wings and the amazing talented authors that are part of that. Developing new partnerships with Josh for some great new material coming your way in 2021. Every month seems to bring us something new and something special, and something to be thankful for in the operation of a business. And I think if you were to become a very large corporation, you tend to forget a lot of that, because eventually I think you get a little too big and you forget that you're supposed to be thankful for all the people that helped you get where you are. And thankfully, Untreed Reads, no matter how big we seem to keep getting, we're still able to maintain that relationship individually with each of our authors. And that's so important to me. And it's something that really kind of only happens in independent press. It really doesn't happen much when you get to the large houses. I mean, you might have an author who has a relationship with a specific agent or a specific publishing rep, but being able to have that really close relationship with everybody is unique and special and really, really different. And I have Gizmo completely chewing on my finger at the moment. You can't see him, but he is completely. What are you doing, buddy? I think this is the sign that he wants to return to the office. Give me 1 second. I'm going to send him back to his desk. Come here, Giz. Wish all those people out there a happy Thanksgiving. From all the emails that I've received, a lot of you are very grateful for Gizmo. Apparently, he has given a lot of you folks a lot of joy. We're so glad we've included him in our videos. I can tell you that Giz brings me an incredible amount of joy on a daily basis, and being able to share my little monster with all of you has been something I'm also very thankful for. We haven't always been able to do live videos, and being able to include this little guy as part of our team is really awesome. So hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Fortunately, his office is nearby and not down the hall. All right. Well, without further ado, I would very much like to introduce my sister, Lisa Wagner. Let's see if she's standing by out there. Lisa, you out there with us?
I sure am.
And there she is.
Hi.
Ooh. I joke that she's coming to us from the test kitchens of Untreed Reads. Um, it's pretty funny when you know. I'd love to say that, like a lot of our fiction, I just received the stories and it's a simple edit, and it just goes in the book. But Lisa and I actually have, I think more so really with this volume than with previous volumes, we actually communicated quite a bit more in this volume about what we wanted to see for recipes, because the more we talked about pandemic and about not leaving your house, Lisa is a master shopper, and I got to tell you, I mean, I got to brag on my sister a little bit here. Lisa and I grew up in a house with a Thanksgiving dinner that pretty much came out of a box. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the turkey was probably the only thing that was natural, and then all the other stuff that came out of a can that ended up on our table. I I can't say anything to the Lisa is the cook in the family. She makes pretty much everything from scratch. Um, I still have Thanksgiving in a box. If I'm with Lisa for Thanksgiving, it would be one thing, but on my own, I'm doing stovetop. I'm doing we don't our videos aren't monetized anyway, so I can say stovetop all I want, and nobody's going to say anything. But yes, my Princella yams, store brand marshmallows, yeah, the whole 9 yards. But Lisa, on the other hand, makes all her stuff from scratch, and she's a marvelous cook. And it's one of the reasons why when we started the Killer War Cranberry series, I had said, after the first few volumes, I was like, we really need to do something different. I'd love to include some recipes. And Lisa you were gangbusters right from the start, weren't you?
Oh yes, it's my arts and crafts.
Yeah, I mean, some people. Oh, Lisa also scrapbooks. I was going to say it's for some people it's scrapbook, but the experimenting thing with Lisa is like, oh, what kind of new recipe can I come up with? But really, Cranberry Six was, I think, really the most we really tried to sit and develop uh, recipes that people really didn't have to leave the house to make. So Lisa's going to go ahead and present a couple of her recipes today. Let's see, if I'm not mistaken, one recipe is from the third book, right? And then one is from the sixth.
From the fourth book, A Fourth Meal of Mayhem. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is the one that has my easy bread stuffing. And back then, I made it with, you could either get your favorite store-bought loaf of bread that has wheat or multigrain in it. But in recent year, I've discovered that I need to be gluten-free. And so what I developed was a new recipe of gluten-free, and it's yeast-free also bread. And that is in our most recent edition, the 6th Scandalous Serving. So I'm going to be sharing with you both those recipes. So that way, if you need to make a gluten-free stuffing for your loved ones, you'll be able to use both of my recipes and successfully do that.
That's great, because obviously, even though we may all have toned down Thanksgivings this year, and not necessarily all the same people, same number of people we would normally have. One thing I should add about the recipes from all the Killer War Cranberries is there's something in there for every diet, whether you're vegan or you can eat anything or you're gluten free. Lisa's really done her best over the books to try to incorporate recipes that really anybody can eat, and I think that's really important when you're planning a Thanksgiving. And it kind of goes to the same with the mystery stories that are in there. That's why her recipes are such a great complement to the stories, because the stories all have very different types of feels to them, for a mystery, and the recipes all do kind of the same thing. And by the way, if you notice that I'm looking in weird spots for this, I promise you I'll get used to this eventually. We're using new software. It's one of the reasons why this is being pre-recorded. I'm still jumping through some hoops learning it, but I find I have Lisa side by side on my screen, so I find I'm watching her cook, and as a result, I'm like not looking at the camera. The joy of technology. So I'm gonna make that a little easier on myself here. I'm gonna turn everything over to Lisa. I'll still be here. You'll still hear my voice, like anybody really cares to do that. But we're going to have Lisa go ahead and take it away. There you go. That is all you now.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much, Jay, for having me in this episode. And I also want to thank you, Katie. She's been a great support and given me great feedback for the past 7 years. I joined the Untreed Reads family in 2013, and it's been a lot of fun working with everyone. So, as I said before, my stuffing recipe appeared in the 4th edition of A Killer War Cranberry, and now I'm presenting my gluten-free bread that will go with that, and that's in our 6th edition. So, let me first show you. Here's the finished product. This is what is going to be prepared for the stuffing, okay? So, just to mention some of the ingredients that are in there, I used unsweetened coconut milk, and it's important that you get the beverage, not the one that comes in the can, because the stuff that comes in the can is pretty thick, but this flows more like milk. Okay, and then it calls for some olive oil, and just
I'm
yes, you're
over
going
the
to put this much olive oil in your recipe. No,
Here's
it's only
here's
going to
a gallon of olive oil that's going in the recipe.
yeah, wrong holiday. We're thinking of Hanukkah, where you're pouring out the oil on the pan to make the latkes. So this is just a little bit.
And if you think
But
that's for olive oil, you should see her bottle of vodka.
and then I buy. Okay, I want to tell you something. You talk about living through a pandemic or raiding your pantry. These are awesome because if any of you folks out there have children, you probably have these little snack cups already in your pantry, and they're great for all recipes. For example, these are already pre-measured at half a cup. So if you've got a recipe and you're going to want to use half a cup of applesauce, it's already measured for you.
That's good.
But
I never knew that. That's actually pretty
yeah,
awesome. Okay.
that's great. And so I only needed an eighth of a cup. So what I did here was I measured it out, and then my son happily ate the rest of the applesauce. And then after that, I added some ground flax seeds, and I use a coffee grinder to make my ground flax seeds. That way it's fresh and ready for me. And I did the same thing. I used a coffee grinder to make my oat flour. I buy certified gluten-free oats for myself, and that way I can be sure that it will be fine for me.
But can you substitute pretty much any oats for that?
Yes, in fact, because my husband and my son, they can eat regular oats. They don't have to be gluten-free. So they can I just grind that up and make my oat flour just as I did for other recipes that were in the Killer War Cranberry. And then my latest discovery in the last year is gluten-free all-purpose flour. Now, the important thing to read on the package about this one is it needs to have rice flour, xanthan gum, and tapioca. The xanthan gum and the tapioca are going to help bind just in a similar way when you have gluten in your wheat. It helps to hold your bread and your baked goods together. And I really like the convenience of it already being mixed in there, so I can just sub it out 1-to-1. And then I also added some garbanzo flour. It gives a little bit of protein, a little bit of sturdiness to my bread. And then everyone likes to have a little bit of sugar in their bread and some baking powder to give it a little bit of lift because, as I said...
Do you have a preference of what type of sugar you use? Do you use just regular white sugar, brown sugar?
No, that's a great question. I like to use the turbinado, which is the sugar in the raw. That's the one that I've been using for years. It has a really nice flavor, and it's natural and not refined. So I'm glad you asked that question. And then about the baking powder, I use that because, as I said, this is a yeast-free, and most people have some type of baking powder in their pantry already, and that will give your bread some lift. And also it keeps it vegan for those of your family members that choose not to have animal products in their food. And then there's some salt. And then finally, there's an herb blend. And what you can do is you can be flexible. You can put whatever your favorite herbs are. We love sage, especially at Thanksgiving. And so I always add that to my savory bread recipes. So this here is a mixture of sage, rosemary, thyme, marjoram, not to be confused with margarine, the herb marjoram, basil, a little bit of onion powder, and then some grinds of black pepper. And it gives the bread a really nice flavor. And that's something else I want to say about this bread. You can eat it just the way it is. You can cut it up and serve it into pieces, or you can use it for sandwiches. But then you can also use it, like I said, for stuffing. And another great thing about this bread is it freezes very well. So you could make a batch of bread ahead of time, put it in your freezer, and then bring it back out at a holiday when you were ready to cut it up and prepare it for your stuffing. And also, this recipe is very easily doubled or cut in half. So say you've got a lesser crowd at your house, you could make a half batch, or if you're going to have more people or you just love it so much, you could double it. All right, so now that I've shared with you about this bread, I now want to show you how we can use it in my easy stuffing recipe.
Real quick,
yeah.
So once you've mixed your ingredients, how long does it typically take to bake something like that? And how do you know when it's done?
Thank you for reminding me about that part. I'm just so excited to be on this show with all of you today that some of my thoughts just kind of flew out of my head. All right. So,
You got to think, yeah, for people like me who would be like, well, I stared at it and it didn't finish.
yes, you need to include those steps, right? All right. So I have prepared a square baker with olive oil. I just take a paper towel and kind of wipe it around there. I spread my batter in here, and I baked it in a preheated oven at 350 degrees. Let's see, how long did I bake it for? 20 minutes. Okay. And so then you want to check it. And if you want yours to be a little bit more brown on top, you could keep it a little bit longer, but and you can even let it go a little bit longer if you want to dry it out for your stuffing. I like it to where you see, I don't know if you can see, when I press on it, it's firm but has a little bit of a bounce back, and that's how I know that it's ready.
I noticed.
Okay.
I noticed that you put this in a square pan. Will this
Mhm.
recipe work in a loaf pan as well, or any kind of bread pan?
Yes, and the reason that I started making this in a square pan is because I've been using my toaster oven a lot. Sometimes I don't want to heat up the whole kitchen, and by turning the oven on, and or I'm baking late at night, which is a very frequent thing for me, and I don't want the whole house, waking the guys up with the smell of bread or cookies or whatever. So I put this in my toaster oven, and but then it also frees up my oven. So if I want to be using it for something else, I can do that. But yes, you could make it in a loaf pan if you want to, or if you're doubling the recipe, you can put it in a 13 by 9 pan, and that would work too. All right. Is there anything else I forgot, Jay?
I don't think so.
Okay, so are you ready for me to move on to my stuffing recipe?
Alrighty.
So, all right. So I'm going to get out I have a wood cutting board and my bread knife. And since I prepared the pan, this bread should lift out pretty easily.
And what did you do to? I forgot. You.
Oh, I used olive oil. So as you can see, look at that, lifted right out.
Okay, I'm jealous.
So now what I'm going to do is I want to make it into small cubes. And so I'll just simply start cutting in straight lines down like this. And meanwhile, I want to also tell you guys what's in the pot. I have in here some olive oil, granulated onion, and very finely cut carrots and celery. And that's all that you'll see, all that in my recipe that's in the 4th edition of the Killer War Cranberry. And what I was been doing is letting that saute so that the vegetables get soft, because my guys they prefer soft vegetables in their stuffing rather than crunchy ones. I should say it like that. And then what I also did was
That's also very useful if you have people at your Thanksgiving dinner that don't have teeth.
Yes, that's true. You have young people, yes, exactly right. Now, what I did was I boiled water in my electric kettle, and I measured out a 1/4 cup in this. And what I've been doing is I've been stirring the vegetables and checking them periodically. And if I feel like they need some more moisture added to them, then I spill a little bit of this water in there. In the meantime, I also filled a 2-cup measure with hot water, and I added 1 vegetable bouillon to it. And so that allowed that to become my vegetable broth. Now, if you're someone who really likes the flavor of chicken broth and you've got some in your house, you could use that too. Or if you've already got vegetable broth that's already made, that would work out as well. So right now what I'm doing is I am cutting up the bread into cubes like this, if you can see what I'm doing here. And then I've also got an herb blend. In addition to, yes, the bread is already seasoned, but we really love, like I said, the flavors of sage and marjoram and thyme and all those yummy things that you associate with the holidays. So I'm going to actually add some more. So in the recipe, it states that I have, this one calls for rosemary, thyme, sage, and salt, all in equal amounts, and then with grinds of black pepper. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to sprinkle this on my vegetables and get them all nice and yummy and stir that up. And I'm going to show them to you. These have softened very nicely. Everybody can see that out there in cyber world. It smells very good. maybe sometime in the future we'll have what, smell-o-vision?
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be torture.
Yeah, they could smell what we're cooking. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my bread in here with my vegetables. I wonder how many people have different versions of stuffing that are their family favorites. I hear a lot of people here in Georgia, they make theirs with corn, but like you mentioned in our video earlier in our chat, that we're from up north, and I think a lot of us, we make what's called stuffing, which is with bread.
Yeah, question for you: Are you a turkey stuffer, or are you a stuffing out solely making your stuffing on the side person?
I make it on the side. I do not stuff the turkey. You know what I do is we brine our turkey with a soy sauce and seasoning, and we just love it.
I thought you said you blind your turkey. I was like,
No,
that's a little cruel.
my turkey.
We've done some horrible things to people in the Killer War Cranberry, but I don't know that we've ever blinded them with soy sauce.
Well, I love soy sauce. That's right. That would burn.
Yeah, boy, that would do the trick, all right.
Yeah. So now what I'm doing is I am combining my ingredients so that it absorbs all of that yummy vegetable broth. And I'm going to put it into a 13 by 9 glass pan that has been prepared with olive oil. And this will bake in a 350-degree preheated oven for about 35 minutes. You're going to cover it with foil. So initially you keep in the moisture, okay? A little gnat just joined me. And then you'll set a timer, and after about 35 minutes, you can take the foil off and you let it continue to bake. Now, in my recipe, it says for 10 minutes, but if you like your stuffing to be extra crispy and really firm, you can leave it in there longer. It just depends on how your family likes it. So I've got this stirred up, and let me show you. I put it in the pan and spread it out. Turn that off now. Now, my recipe says that this will serve 12. You know, if you're using it as just a side dish in addition to other things, but say you're having like less courses, you could serve bigger portions, especially if people really love it or just they want to go back for seconds.
I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in having vegetables. So for me, like stuffing and turkey are the best parts. So
Jay, this would be a great way to get some vegetables in you, though, because look, there's vegetables in here. So doesn't that count?
That does count, absolutely. But I would certainly eat, I think, a lot more of that with the turkey than anything else.
This really does pair very well with turkey, and like I said before, just like when you're making the bread, this freezes well. And I have to tell you, every year when I make this stuffing, I freeze the leftovers and we reheat them for Christmas dinner, and it saves me work. So this is already made, and I can then have the leftovers later, which is great. All right, so this is all ready now to go in the oven. Like I said, I'm going to cover it with foil. And put this in my oven. And oh, guess what? Look, I already have some that I made earlier. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, this batch was prepared in a corn pan. Wait, Jay. This is from our grandmother, Nanny, our mother's mother. And she would make either stuffing or sweet potatoes in it with us for Thanksgiving. So I thought Jay might appreciate seeing this.
That is true Corningware right there. That is, yes. Look at that. So hold that one up. Folks, if you're like me, now Lisa will show you hers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's mine. So which would you rather eat? I'm going to give you a soft hint. We're going to take the one off the camera that you should not be eating. Yeah, that's Yeah, Lisa's recipe is infinitely better than this one. I would eat Lisa's cooking anytime.
Well, you know you're welcome here anytime, Jay.
I appreciate that. I wish I could be there for Thanksgiving. So again, I really appreciate you, Lisa, coming out here, doing the video, cooking for all of us. That's
This
very
is so
sweet.
fun. Thanks for having me.
Lisa was also willing to be our guinea pig for our new interview software. We we managed to get everything up and running, so that's much appreciated. But it's been a lot of years since Lisa and I have been able to really do a Thanksgiving. So separated by a country and time and everything else. But uh, Lisa, I love you. I really appreciate you being here, being part of the Untreed Reads family, always being part of my family. Much love to you and Nathan and Derek. And we will undoubtedly catch up with you. You know, in case you didn't know, Lisa does have a Valentine's Day cookbook out there too, uh, called From Lisa with Love, which is a really great Valentine's Day cookbook. Kind of make a nice dinner for yourself and your loved one. That's available wherever ebooks are sold. But again, Lisa's recipes appear in 4 of the Killer War Cranberry volumes, starting with volume 3 and going through the most recent one, Six Scandalous Serving. Lisa, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much again for having me, and I love you too, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too. All right, folks. That was my sister, Lisa Wagner. So much fun. You know what? I got so tired of me being this talking head that all of you guys are always looking at and never having anybody else on. And it's Thanksgiving, and I thought I'd do something a little different. So that is going to pretty much wrap things up here. A couple last minute things in the notes in the comments. Tell us what you're most thankful for here in 2020. We're going to pick 3 folks at random, and we're going to gift you the entire Killer War Cranberry series in ebook format. So, yep, 3 people are going to be lucky enough to get all 6 volumes in ebook, which is fantastic. Don't forget, again, all the Thanksgiving stories on our website, store.untreedreads.com. Just look for the Thanksgiving stories link on the left side. Use coupon code TURKEY, that's all caps, at checkout. You'll save an extra 25% off of all of those Thanksgiving titles. Again, so thankful for all of you. Thankful for our readers, our authors. Thanks for being here. Thanks for continuing to be part of the Untreed Reads family. Thanks for following us on YouTube. Don't forget, please subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up. If you give us a thumbs up, that also helps have other folks discover our videos. Be sure to ring the bell below to be notified whenever we have new content coming to the channel. But again, subscribe, like. Folks, have a really terrific Thanksgiving. Lots of good health, happiness to you and your families. We wish we could be there with all of you because we really love food, and having multiple dinners seems really, really appealing. But folks, take care. Remember to be thankful for the folks in your life rather than the things you have. And we will see all of you on the next show. On behalf of myself, Gizmo, Sandra Murphy, my chat hostess, and of course, my sister Lisa Wagner. Folks, have yourself a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.